Hey everyone, welcome back to Successful Project Management. I'm Erwin Swetnam, your guide through today's lesson. In Chapter 2, we'll explore how companies choose which projects to accept. Today we'll focus on 1, identifying and selecting projects, 2, how to create a project charter, and 3, how to prepare a request for proposal, RFP. Finally, we'll look at how to solicit proposals from contractors. By the end of this session, you'll have a toolkit for identifying which projects are worth pursuing, crafting a detailed project charter, and issuing a compelling RFP. Ready? Let's get started. By talking about how projects are identified, this process called project identification is where we recognize a need or opportunity for change. Projects can come from strategic planning, new technology, or even something unexpected like a breakdown in an old system. For example, think of Apple. And when they decide to release a new iPhone, it's not just because they feel like it, it's because they've identified a market need. Customers want faster processors, better cameras, and more innovative features, and Apple responds to that demand during their strategic planning. Companies also identify projects in response to external factors like new regulations or because they're trying to improve efficiency. Once a need or opportunity is recognized, it's time to move on to project selection. After a company has identified potential projects, the next step is deciding which ones to pursue. This process is called project selection. Since companies have limited resources, they can't work on every project idea that comes their way, so they need to decide which ones offer the best return on investment. To help make this decision, companies will ask questions. For example, does the project align with our business goals? What's the potential return on investment? What are the risks involved? How much will it cost and how long will it take? Let's say a company is deciding between launching a new product or improving their customer service system. If they determine that improving customer service will increase customer retention and lead to higher profits, that might be the project they choose to focus on. Take a minute here. Would it be profit, time, risk, or something else? After selecting a project, companies typically create a project charter, which is an official document that outlines the key details of the project. Let's dive into a real-world example. In China, during the construction of high-speed railways, contractors were evaluated based not only on cost and timelines, but also on their commitment to safety. Contractors with better safety records were selected because they were less likely to experience delays due to accidents. This saved time, reduced costs, and kept the projects on track. This example shows that when managing risky projects, things like safety can be just as important as the bottom line. A project charter is a critical document that formally authorizes a project. It lays out the roadmap for the project team and key stakeholders, setting the stage for the project to move forward. Let's go through the 17 key elements that are usually included in a project charter. Here's a breakdown of what you'll find in a standard project charter. 1. Project title. This is the name of the project. It should be concise but descriptive. For example, New Customer Relationship Management System Development. 2. Purpose. This explains why the project is being undertaken. What need or business objective does it address? 3. Description. This section provides a high-level description of the project's scope, including major deliverables or phases. For example, this project will develop a new CRM system to improve customer service and sales tracking. 4. Objective. This is a statement of what the project is expected to accomplish. It might include specific performance measures or targets, like completing the project within 6 months and under a specific budget. 5. Success criteria or expected benefits. This outlines how success will be measured and and what benefits the project will bring. For example, a 20% improvement in customer satisfaction within the first year. 6, funding. This section identifies the amount of money allocated to the project. It might also include information on how and when funds will be released. 7, major deliverables. These are the key outcomes or products that the project is expected to deliver. For example, a fully functional CRM system integrated with existing databases. 8, acceptance criteria. This outlines how the project's deliverables will be evaluated to ensure they meet the necessary standards. For example, the system must handle at least 10,000 transactions per hour with 99% uptime. 9, milestone schedule. This provides a timeline for key project milestones or events. For instance, month 1, project kickoff, month 3, complete system design, month 6, system testing, month 7, final deployment. 10, key assumptions. These are any assumptions made when planning the project, such as the availability of certain resources or technologies. For example, we assume that the software development team will be available full-time. 11, constraints. This outlines any limitations or restrictions on the project, such as time, budget, or resource availability. For example, the project must be completed by the end of the fiscal year. 12, major risks. This section identifies potential risks that could affect the project's success. For instance, there is a risk that the CRM system may not integrate smoothly with existing software. 13, approval requirements. This defines who must approve key decisions during the project. For example, the board of directors must approve any changes to the project scope. 14, project manager. This identifies the individual who will be responsible for managing the project. For example, Sarah Lee, Senior Project Manager. 15, reporting requirements. This outlines how often and in what format project progress will be reported to stakeholders. For example, monthly status reports will be provided to the executive team. 16, sponsor designee. This is the person who has been designated by the sponsor to oversee the project. For instance, John Doe, VP of Operations, is the sponsor designee for this project. 17, approval signature and date. This is where the project sponsor or authorizing individual formally signs off on the project. The date marks when the project is officially authorized to begin. Take a moment to reflect. If you were drafting a project charter for a project you're involved in, what would your major deliverables and milestone schedule look like? Pause here to jot down your thoughts on your. Now that we've established the project charter, the next step is preparing a request for proposal, or RFP. An RFP is a document used when a company needs outside contractors to help complete a project. The RFP clearly outlines what the company needs so that potential contractors can submit detailed proposals. Let's go through the 14 key components that should be included in a formal RFP. 1, the RFP must state the project objective or purpose. This should explain why the project is being undertaken and what the company aims to achieve. For example, the purpose of this project is to develop a new CRM system that improves customer retention and sales tracking. 2, an RFP must provide a statement of work, SOW. The SOW outlines the major tasks that the contractor is expected to perform. For instance, the contractor will design, develop, and implement a CRM system that integrates with our existing databases and customer service tools. 3, the RFP must include the customer requirements. This section defines the functional and performance specifications the project must meet. For example, the CRM system must be able to handle 10,000 transactions per hour, support multiple languages, and be compatible with existing databases. 4, the RFP should state what deliverables the customer expects the contractor to provide. These are the tangible items or results the contractor is responsible for. For example, the contractor will deliver a fully operational CRM system, user manuals, and a training program for employees. 5. The RFP should state the acceptance criteria. This defines how the company will evaluate whether the deliverables meet the required standards. For example, the CRM system will undergo a testing phase to ensure it meets the performance criteria of 99% uptime and scalability for future needs. 6. The RFP should list any customer-supplied items. These are items the company will provide to the contractor to assist in completing the project. For instance, the company will supply the contractor with access to existing customer data and internal server specifications. 7. The RFP might state the approvals required by the customer. This outlines any approvals needed from the customer before the contractor can proceed. For example, the contractor must obtain approval from the customer after the initial design phase before moving on to development. 8. Some RFPs mention the type of contract the customer intends to use. This could be a fixed price contract or a time and materials contract. For instance, this project will use a fixed price contract, meaning the contractor will be paid a set amount regardless of how much time or resources are required. 9. An RFP might state the payment terms the customer intends to use. This explains how and when the contractor will be paid. For example, 25% of the total project cost will be paid upon signing the contract, 50% upon completion of the system design, and the remaining 25% upon final delivery. 10. The RFP should state the required schedule for completion of the project and key milestones. This lays out the timeline for the project and when key deliverables are expected. For example, the CRM system must be fully operational within 6 months. The design phase should be completed by the end of month 2, and testing should be completed by the end of month 4. 11. The RFP should provide instructions for the format and content of the contractor proposals. This ensures that all contractor proposals are submitted in a similar format for easy comparison. For instance, contractors must submit a detailed outline of their approach, including timelines, costs, and the resumes of key personnel. 12. The RFP should indicate the due date by which the customer expects potential contractors to submit proposals. This is the deadline for submitting proposals. For example, proposals must be submitted by October 1st, 2024 at 5 p.m. 13. An RFP may include the evaluation criteria. This tells contractors how their proposals will be evaluated. For example, proposals will be evaluated based on cost, 30%, experience with similar projects, 30%, and the proposed timeline, 40%. 14. In rare cases, an RFP will indicate the funds the customer has available to spend on the project. This is sometimes included to help contractors submit realistic proposals. For example, the customer has allocated a budget of $500,000 for this project. Pause and think for a moment. If you were writing an RFP for a project at your company, what would be your top priorities to include? Would it be cost, quality, timeline, or something else? Write down your answer before continuing. Now that the request for proposal, RFP, has been prepared, the next step is soliciting proposals from potential contractors. This is where the customer sends out the RFP to a group of contractors or makes it publicly available, depending on the project. Companies typically notify contractors that an RFP is available by sending it directly to select firms, posting it on their website, or listing it in business journals. For example, government agencies often announce RFPs on websites like federal business opportunities. One thing to keep in mind is that every contractor must receive the same information. If one contractor gets more details than another, it creates an unfair advantage, which can lead to disputes down the line. During the proposal development phase, customers might even host bidders meetings to explain the RFP and answer any contractor questions. Pause here and consider. If you were soliciting proposals, how would you ensure that all contractors get the same information? Think about it and then continue. It's also important to remember that not every project follows the typical RFP process. Some projects skip the formal RFP step altogether. For instance, a nonprofit organization may initiate and implement a project with internal resources or volunteers rather than hiring an external contractor. Before we wrap up the chapter, let's take a look at the critical success factors for identifying and selecting projects. These are the things that increase the likelihood of a project's success, and they're crucial to keep in mind as you move through the project selection process. Here are the key factors. 1. Clearly define the need before preparing an RFP. The more clarity around the project's purpose, the easier it will be for contractors to submit proposals that meet your needs. 2. When selecting a project, choose the one with the greatest overall benefit. Weigh the costs, risks, and potential return before making a decision. 3. Establish success criteria. Make sure you know how you're going to measure whether the project is successful, whether it's through cost savings, efficiency improvements, or customer satisfaction. 4. Prepare a thorough RFP that addresses the customer's needs and requirements. The more details you provide, the better the proposals you'll receive. 5. Provide clear evaluation criteria in the RFP. Contractors need to know how their proposals will be evaluated. 6. Be careful to provide the same information to all contractors. Avoid giving any one contractor an unfair advantage. Now let's reflect. Which of these critical success factors do you think is the most important? Is it clearly defining the project's need, or maybe establishing success criteria? Write down your thoughts and we'll keep going. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's summarize the key points from Chapter 2 on identifying and selecting projects. 1. Project identification starts with recognizing a need or opportunity. Projects can be initiated due to strategic planning, new technology, regulatory requirements, or unexpected events. 2. Project selection is the process of evaluating potential projects and deciding which one should move forward. A well-structured selection process can help ensure the best project is chosen. 3. The project charter formally authorizes a project and lays out the objectives, scope, timeline, and budget. It includes 17 essential elements from the project title to approval signatures. 4. A request for proposal, RFP, is used to solicit proposals from external contractors. The RFP must clearly outline the project's objectives, scope, deliverables, and timeline. 5. Soliciting proposals involves distributing the RFP to contractors and ensuring that everyone receives the same information to avoid unfair competition. 6. Finally, there are several critical success factors that increase the chances of project success, such as clearly defining the project's need, preparing a thorough RFP, and establishing clear success criteria. That's it for today's session. I hope this chapter gave you some valuable insights into how to identify and select projects effectively. Make sure to review your notes and take some time to think about how you can apply these concepts in your own work. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next chapter.